All right, welcome to a new episode of The Next Big Thing. Today we are joined by Dr. Charan Singh, who is a senior economist and the CEO of IGRO Foundation, a think tank in Delhi. He has previously served as a professor at IIM Bangalore and as an economist at the International Monetary Fund and RBI in Mumbai. We'll be talking to him about the current situation of the Indian economy under COVID 19 and the relief measures employed by the government in this regard. We would try to, group the discussion in three different categories, which is essentials and food security, how we'll tackle that problem, the second problem being the liquidity crisis, and the third problem being the overall fiscal stimulus. So I would like to start with the essentials part. So we have recently read some reports from the Indian Express and some other news sources that say that the Food Corporation of India currently is holding 3 times the buffer stock that it usually holds. And over top of that, we are expected to have a good Rabi crop in this season. So, as you know, a lot of our government policy in the past 60 years has been around ensuring food security for the lowest economic strata of our society. Now that we have that infrastructure in place, how can we leverage it the best to serve the crisis that is upon us right now?
So that's a very good question that you have asked, and what probably you have missed out is that many people in India, despite the pandemic there and government making effort, the food is not reaching and they are sleeping hungry, right? That's the concern that you have. So let me tell you, I'm in India and I've looked at this Food Corporation of India. Please remember the Food Corporation of India picks up food from the farmers. And then they have godowns all across the country, and then they distribute it to the public distribution system. Now, what's a public distribution system? It has nearly 5 lakhs and I think 10,000 fair price shops. They're spread across the country. Now, remember, there are about 6 lakh villages in the country. There are 400 major districts and there are small towns and big towns. So 5.5 lakh fair price shops is a sufficiently good number of shops. And the Food Corporation of India supplies its food. Now, when this pandemic broke out and the Prime Minister announced that there will be a lockout, this aspect was thought through. And within the very first few days, the Prime Minister came out with a scheme called the Prime Minister's Garib Kalyan Yojana. Now, what was the Garib Kalyan Yojana? It was basically supplying food. And it said, we'll give you 5 kgs of rice or wheat extra without any cost. And we'll also give you some dal, lentils, and then what your regular requirement is, or what your regular, you call it, the people under the public distribution system, the fair price shops, they are permitted a certain amount of rations regularly. So the government said this will be over and above your regular ration, right? So that was taken care of.
I see.
Unfortunately, what happened when the state started distributing the food, somewhere the word went that this is only for people who have the ration card. Now the catch is there are lots of migrant laborers in the country. They may have a ration card at their hometown where their families live, but once there's a lockdown, they're earning, say, in a place called Surat, ration card is in their native place, say Patna, and because they were working, they were daily wage workers, they could go and buy ration anywhere in Surat. But because of the lockdown, most of the shops closed. Now they could not get free ration. So some of the people, they were in trouble. So what happened? So the government requested everybody to come and help out somebody who's in need. The mandirs, the gurdwaras, the Jain temples, the NGOs, everybody swung into action. Even many companies swung into action and started providing free food packets. I think despite this elaborate arrangement of the government's Prime Minister's Garib Kalyan Yojana, tapping the Food Corporation and the fair price shop, despite the NGO rating, some people really seem to have gone hungry. And that wherever those issues came up, the government swung into action, the local administration swung into action and took care as much as possible. Now, please remember a country of the size of India, which has, how many people, no? 134 crore people. Now, when you compare it with a country like Italy or Spain, what is the population of these countries? 6 crore, 4 crore, right? Here is 133 crore. So, in a large country like this, there's always a possibility that the last mile there may be some problem. Moment it comes to your notice, the best thing is you've been able to fix it. And my feeling is, because I've seen this happening here, they have been able to fix. Very few people in the country would be going to sleep without having had their food. Now look at the other side, what is happening. Food Corporation of India is distributing food. Fair price shops have allowed the Garib Kalyan Yojana to operate. And there are enough reports coming within the country that food has been supplied to a single household in such large quantity that cooked food, puris, sabji, is being wasted and thrown away. So that's another extreme that has happened. Now let me tell you a positive side. In Baroda, in Gujarat, and in Nagpur, in Maharashtra, some people came up and said, look, we are taking care of all the human beings and their food requirements. But how about the animals, the cow, the street dog, the Gurdwara and the NGOs? They swung into action and started cooking. And when I say cooking is not 10 kgs, I remember a case in Nagpur where they cooked 100 kgs of chapati with jaggery and milk for the dog. So to that extent, I'm very happy to say the country is very sensitive to food requirements and trying its very best to reach everybody that it can serve.
Regarding the ration card issue, Uncle, we have seen that there is a policy being floated regarding one nation, one ration card, the issue that you exactly mentioned. Do we expect that policy to be rolled out sooner than it was planned, given the circumstances?
So, you see, there is, now just look at it from the angle of a public policy maker. Suppose I told the Food Corporation of India that distribute food to the fair price shops. And we told the fair price shops to distribute food to everybody who comes to you despite having or not having a ration card. Just suppose, you know what it will happen? Leakage. Anybody will come. How do you know the next door Kiryana shop guy will come and say, don't mind, give me 100 kilos? That's not what we want. So for setting the rules and regulations for more efficient use of resources by the needy, some of the restrictions can hurt.
Right.
As for alternatives to this are concerned, now I've been thinking how to make sure that the fair price shops just don't throw away the ration that they have. They are held accountable and responsible. What should we do that the normal man on the street, a migrant labor, does not go hungry? So there are ways to do it. The best way I look at it is we have, like you are all staying abroad, but in India we have also municipal corporations, municipal councils. We also have panchayat. And these are the local bodies. They have the elected corporators, elected representatives. They also have a mayor. They are the most connected to the ward, to the population where they are. They know absolutely in which house migrant laborers work and where do they sleep. They can be entrusted this job. Please make sure under your constituency, nobody goes hungry. As for a question of having a ration card, one nation, one ration card, until we are all electronically connected, if my family, I'm a migrant labor, I live in Surat, my family lives in Patna, my family will drop the ration that is earmarked for it during the month. I'm living in Surat, should I get an additional ration? Or should I say there's a family of 5 members.
Mm.
4 are living in Patna. I'm living in Surat. 1/5 of the ration I'll get in Surat. 4/5 they will get, and electronically it will be settled. Until we have that network
Hmm.
and infrastructure, it will be very difficult to say that the migrant laborers will be able to get the ration from the ration company. At the end of the day, please remember whose money is involved? Taxpayers' money. Who's the taxpayer? On one side, the richest of the rich may be the taxpayer, but even the poorest of the poor is also a taxpayer. So we cannot squander away public money. So while all these regulations, rules are meant for the most optimal and efficient use of resources, there is always a possibility that somebody has something. And there are ways to plug those gaps. One of the ways that I've mentioned is asking the local corporator to ensure. Then comes the mandirs and the gurdwaras. And almost everybody in the gurdwara or the mandir knows who is coming from where he or she is coming. They know precisely who's a family man, who's a migrant. And those trusts and you for a mandir can be told in the name of humanity, please make sure everybody around you, your congregation, you have enough food. And the last thing is we can have, in our country, amongst the Sikh community, we have a concept called langar. You come to the place of worship, you get the food. Similarly, in the local area, it can be spread a local mandir or a masjid or a church or simply community center can be earmarked that anybody who wants food and water, it is available. That is the way to address hunger.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm. And so, sticking to the topic of the people who are worst affected by the crisis, one aspect that we'll definitely discuss in some time is the economy, but the crisis above them is a huge liquidity crisis in the hands of the poor person. He's, as you said, food security has been by and large ensured within the country, but still there is.
Let's look at it a little scientific. So the reason that they needed food, they needed to earn, has been addressed by the fact that the food has been supplied to.
Hmm.
Now comes the issue of liquidity in their hands.
Hmm.
The government has announced, firstly, lots of medical facilities. They can go into any of the hospitals. That's the second thing a man needs in case of a difficulty. Under
Right.
the direct benefit transfers, they have also announced that the females, nearly 4 of them, will be money under the DBT, which means they will get straight into their accounts. And
Correct.
experiments across the world have shown that women are financially more responsible. That's why the self-help groups, the microfinance institutions, they work on the women, female labor force, female mind, and female body. So they have been allowed 500 rupees a month for 3 months, no question asked, under the direct benefit transfer. The Reserve Bank, therefore, I would say the fear. So the other thing which the Reserve Bank says,
whenever we look at India, there's
so look what is happening in the US. Because the system is very advanced, moment you are laid off, you go to the unemployment and register yourself, and it revolves. So I think 22 million people have just joined the unemployment ranks, and they'll be supported by the government.
yes,
In
it's
India,
historically high.
it's around 18% of the labor force, but
Exactly.
the Great Depression was 33%,
Yeah.
and the Great Recession of 2008 was around 10%. And
Exactly.
this is a small short-time hiccup. Moment the lockdowns open, this number will go down. In India also, we have weekly status and monthly status unemployment, but problem in India is little different. problem in India is that we are still in big numbers in joint families. 60% of the population is still devoted to agriculture and allied activity. Some of the people whom we think are employed could be disguised as employed. So, they are not 100% employed, but they are engaged 10 hours a day. They are weeding in the farm, then they're taking care of the livestock. So they think they're fully engaged. But if this man goes on a vacation, nothing will change. The weeding will be done by the elder brother or the younger brother, and the livestock will be taken care of the family lady.
I see.
Right? So there's not disguised employment or unemployment in our country. So getting precise figures, like in America, one is able to get a bill, one is able to get. Now these are easy. In a country which is size of a 6 crore people or 3 crore people, the whole country, you have unemployment exchange and all that, that's easy. But in a country which is more than a continent with 22 languages, and the way India is spread, the cultures are different, the staying conditions are different. It's very difficult to come out with the type of figures that you are asking. So what should I monitor? Should I simply not monitor anything? No. There are figures to monitor. The stock market is one barometer. One can look at. Reserve Bank comes out with weekly data on regular basis, which inspires confidence, which will show you sometimes the bank credit, but will certainly show you the foreign exchange reserves that the Reserve Bank has. Inflation figures which come out on monthly frequency, and different inflation figures are, there is WPI and the CPI which comes out. That is data. Industrial production comes out on monthly basis. There's an index of industrial production. That is a very useful data. One can watch and understand where the economy is going. So it's not this vacuum of data. Only thing is the unemployment data we may not have with the same robustness and richness that you have, but we have enough indicators which show us the direction in which the economy is moving.
Right. And the industrial production data, which department in the government / RBI is responsible for collecting it? And, just a small summary on how do they go about collecting it?
So the government of India has a department from which the monthly data on industry is produced. And they have all the details, consumer durables, capital goods, intermediate goods, all are there. There's another set of data which comes out with core industries. There's iron and steel and cement and oil, all that is there. And they follow. They are all part of the national account statistics done in different ministries, but they're all part of the national account statistics. The national account statistics of India is done by a special cadre of statisticians and economists. They're recruited for that purpose. Indian Economic Service and Indian Statistical Service. The methodology that they adopt is finalized under the aegis of the United Nations. And therefore, India has the best economists and the statisticians. Many of the statisticians, when they retire, are lapped up by the Western world because they're so good. So the method which is followed for looking at industrial production or sectors in the industry or national income which comes out every quarterly are highly standardized, meet the high global standards which are set by the United Nations. The latest data which we have on the growth data has come from the IMF. It says India will grow at 1.9%. And the world is getting into a recession. Many countries are in negative zone, but India is in positive zone. It will be the highest growing country in the world in the current 2021.
I see. No, that's actually very optimistic. I mean, I have heard that only China and India are the only big economies expected to have a positive growth rate this year. Everyone else is expected to go into negative space. So that's certainly reassuring in that regard.
The engine of growth for the world.
Yeah.
And picking up on the same tangent as Niche mentioned about China and India. So we've seen during the US-China trade war, a lot of manufacturing firms tried to move out of China, and for some reason, countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh could take much more of an advantage than India, supposedly. So do you think this crisis also presents itself such an opportunity, since we've heard the Japanese Prime Minister also announcing some sort of a aid for companies looking to move out of China. And overall, the global sentiment right now is not very pro-China. So, what do you think, and how can India make the most of it?
You know that India is a very mild and a timid country.
Hmm.
It's never aggressive in anything.
Hmm.
So I hope Indian authorities they
Hmm.
take advantage of this situation. As you
Hmm.
mentioned, I'm also aware that many countries are very upset with China, not
Hmm.
only upset because China hid facts from them, but also
Hmm.
upset China that it has been the epicenter, and if they send their employees there, when will the pandemic ever end? It'll keep on
Hmm.
moving back and forth in second wave and third wave, right? So
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
various by various countries have started thinking of moving out of China. Now you
Hmm.
mentioned about Vietnam, you mentioned about Bangladesh.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
two native to China cannot
Hmm.
be tiny states or tiny countries.
Hmm.
Bangladesh is what size compared to India? Or
Hmm.
when you have to hold to global manufacturing or
Hmm.
provide alternatives to the global hub, you
Hmm.
need space, you need infrastructure, and you need manpower.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's what the hallmark of China. If I
Right.
have to have migrant labor
Hmm.
come from Canada to work in India, I
Hmm.
cannot maintain the low rate of wages,
Hmm.
which then adds to the competitive advantage.
I
Why
see.
was China able to produce at such low cost? Because it had lots of rural population
Hmm.
willing to work at no cost in
Hmm.
the most modern factories.
I see.
They
Hmm.
used to do it dormitories,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
therefore, the local population provides you the edge
Hmm.
as far as
Hmm.
costing is. So
Right.
Right.
therefore, I think one need not worry.
Hmm.
Vietnam and Bangladesh are no alternatives.
Hmm.
The alternative is India to China, and India is a democratic country,
Hmm.
very scientific manpower,
Hmm.
highly skilled,
Hmm.
knows English already. So it will be a great thing that if firms think on their own and come over to India.
And in the concluding segment of this, every Great Depression, like every economist would say, is an opportunity for reform, right? I mean, in 1930s, when there was the Great Depression, Germany and the US, went on building infrastructure at an enormous speed, and as a result, we had the American freeway system, we had the German highway system, and a lot of people got employment in that regard. So that is why these countries ultimately dominated the 20th century. With respects to like redeveloping India's own infrastructure, we have been talking about, taking business away from China, substituting China's global economic power. Uh, of course, that will also require a lot of rethinking on the government's part, like you said. So, two takeaways basically, I think me and Keshav have that A, we have a long way to go from this crisis in terms of holistic development, and the other one will be we have to develop our own country infrastructure, etc., to basically substitute China in the global economic scenario. So I guess here we'll like to conclude the interview. It's been a entire 1 hour. I think exactly the clock's ticking 1 hour in terms of our recording. Thank you so much, Uncle. It's been a pleasure. I mean, I haven't talked to you in a year, so it was a great talking to you anyway, and of course, a lot of learning to do. Hope we have you again sometime later, and not in terms of a crisis, terms of like a general, bigger topic that we can discuss. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, guys. All right.